welcome to Doing Life with Itzy on a Bitsy Budget. Today we will be decorating Jennifer's daughter's birthday cake, so let's get to it. So to get started, I want to show you how I made the cakes. I made them last night. Actually, it's morning time for me here. And what I do when I make them ahead of time, because I know I don't have a lot of time for filming, so I thought, well, I'll bake the cakes. I've done it so many times. What you do is you just take an old cotton hand towel, I guess is what you call it, and wrap your cake. And when you do that, make sure it's cool when you do it. It turns out great. Keeps it real soft, just like you just baked it. And you won't have to worry about it getting hard overnight. It's very nice and cushiony. You can see it bounces right back. All right, to get started with the icing, I've made this before. It's so easy. I'm doubling the recipe, so I'll use 2 pounds of sugar. You would just half the recipe for a normal batch, but I know I'm going to need this and maybe a regular sized batch to go with it because I'm going to decorate. You'll need 2 sticks of butter, and you'll need a thing of Crisco, and that's just 1 cup. And you'll need some vanilla, and you'll need milk. So it's a very simple recipe. You're going to cream first your shortening and your butter. We'll go ahead and get that all creamed up, and I'll tell you what to add next. So your 2 sticks of butter and your cup of vegetable shortening. Okay, we'll get started. Here's what I've got in my bowl is the 2 sticks of butter. Don't worry, they're half sticks, but they come out to be 1. And then 1 cup of shortening. And here's the mixing attachment that I'm going to use. And so I'll just put this on, and then I'll start off at about a medium speed for, around a minute. And we'll come back to you at that point. All right, as you can see, there's some here on the edge that's not really mixed up. So just take your spatula and go around a couple times. Get it all down there and let it turn on just a minute. You just want to get it really kind of mixed up, and that butter needs to be real soft. And then we'll start adding the sugar and come back. All right, I like buying these 2-pound bags of sugar, and you don't even have to measure anything, when you do this. So it makes it real simple. The reason I double the recipe is there's not enough icing to decorate if you don't. And sometimes I have to make just a regular size batch, like I said before. You're going to just pour in a little bit of this, about 1/4 of the bag or so, and get it started mixing. And you don't want to turn your mixer on high to start with because your sugar will be all over your kitchen. So just start it real slow and get it mixing, and then turn it up. Once it's all mixed in, add a little bit more. All right, we'll come back in just a second. All right, that's what it's going to look like to start off with. And then we're going to add a little bit more. Now it's going to get thicker and thicker just because we're going to end up adding milk. And you don't use a lot of milk with this recipe, but I'll go ahead and turn that on slow again, then we'll get to another point and I'll show you what it looks like. So I'm really using about 1/3 of the bag each time and doing it 3 times, and this time I'll scrape around the side of the bowl just because as it gets a little thicker it doesn't mix it quite as easy. So I'll add the remaining sugar at this point. Okay. And we'll come back. All right, as you're looking at this, you can see it's pretty thick. So now we'll just start adding the milk. For doubling this recipe, we're going to put 4 tablespoons. It's always good to have a glass measuring thing that has tablespoons already on it for liquid stuff, because then you can just pour it in. It says 4. I usually go about 5 because I'm going to use it to decorate. All right, I'll go ahead and start adding a little at a time, probably about half of that. And then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so you can see that it's starting to get a little bit less thick, I guess is the way to say it. And so I'll pour in the rest of the milk. Now, occasionally you might need to even add another teaspoon. I don't know why it gets like that. Sometimes you don't need it. But we'll go ahead and stir this up, and I'll come back and show you the end result. Okay. good consistency. Like I said, as it sits here, we're going to add the vanilla now, and that makes a difference too. And then it should be just perfect. All right. We only need 1 teaspoon of vanilla, so I'll double that and we'll need 2. Now I can use clear vanilla, but I like it a little off-white, so I'm fine with the dark vanilla. Put your vanilla in, and that'll get it a little bit less thick, I guess. That's how I explain it. So I don't know if you can see this, but there is, let me put that down, there's a little bit of dark vanilla around the edge. So you can tell that I need to scrape this bowl, and you see how it's getting a little bit less thick. But I'll scrape the bowl around the edge, just kind of put it on here. Do it again. And then turn it back on. Mix that in real good. As a little trick, as I bring this up the last time, I'll put it down a little bit and kind of lift my mixer so it kind of just gets the icing at the end instead of way up here. And then you just take this off. Oops. And hit it. Just put it to the side because when we get ready to color the icing, we'll go ahead and mix it again. So it'll be good to mix. But again, you can see that it's nice and creamy. Be easy to spread. And I'll go ahead and get the cake all ready to decorate, and then we'll go ahead and turn it back on. See you in just a second. All right, as we're getting ready to ice in the cake, I like putting my cakes straight on a regular cake dish. I don't like those little cardboard little pieces. They are very pretty, and if you choose to use them, they're fine. Make a little cardboard thing, so when you use your spinner, you can just, a spinner is just a revolving, like Lazy Susan kind of thing that turns around so you can ice in your cake. But I do well with mine just on a regular cake plate. So you don't have to have, if you don't have a lot of storage, you don't have to have that to decorate a cake. It's not necessary. But what you would need to do is go ahead and take a little bit of icing, and you don't need much, and just put it in the middle here. It'll keep your cake from slipping around, especially if you're going to transport it. Jennifer's going to take this cake home to her daughter. So, you know, it'll work out good. She can bring me back my cake plate. All right, so uncover your cakes from the night before. Or if they're completely cooled, you would just take them at this point and go right ahead and ice them, which I do a lot. Just depends on my time. Now, the nice thing about this, when you make them the night before, I don't ever like a frozen cake. You can put them in your refrigerator. It's up to you. I just choose not to do it. But it makes this back side a little bit stickier. That's the top side when you're baking. If you'll notice, these cakes are real flat because I used a band that will go around your cake plate, and it makes them flat so you don't have to trim them at all. And so what I will do is I will take the cake, and I'll put that kind of stickier side. That's another reason I actually like. This is a little bit stickier, I call it. And it's just the side that's down, and I'll put it down. And that makes it stay on this pan a little bit better. So there you go. No problem. Now you're probably looking at these cakes and saying, why is one darker than the other two? I baked 3 cakes, and this one was a little higher. And so since I had a big, I didn't need that many. I was just going to do 2 layers for Jennifer. I thought, well, I'll do this layer separately, and you know, we can eat off of that. As I was getting ready to decorate my cake, I realized I don't have any throwaway bags, which are definitely my preference, but I always have a couple of these left from some cake decorating thing I got years ago. So it's good to have these on hand, and also it's good to have these if you're using it. A lot of times I, at Christmas, use one of these bags, and it needs to be thicker that won't melt with chocolate, and I, you know, go on top. I just put a little chocolate line on these cookies I make. So they're good. They're good to have, so always keep your couple that you get if you buy a cake decorating kit, because they're good to have. All right, so let me show you. This does not fall off the plate. Once you put that little bit of icing down, it's going to hold it just fine. Now what you want to do first is you want to get some icing, and you can just plop this on the top. A lot of times I do that, but I like actually making like a little circle. Just push everything down around the edge. Now if you're going to do a filling, like say I want to put a raspberry filling or a chocolate ganache in here, this kind of makes a little dam where you can actually keep it from seeping out onto your regular icing. So if you're ever making a cake and that happens, you know, do that little dam first. Then just put a glob in here. It's a faster way to do it. A lot of times you'll see people decorating a cake and they'll do the whole thing, which is fine. It's just your preference. And then I just take this and I just kind of move it around till it's all flat. And put as much icing as you want here. If you like a lot of icing, you know, thicker between your layers, then just go ahead and, you know, put a lot more on there. If you want it real thin, then just, you know, a lot of times if you're doing, say this was a cake and I cut 3 or 4 different layers, I'd go ahead and just have thin layers so I only have thin icing in between. But since I'm just doing a 2-layer cake, I'll put a good bit on there. Then just take your other cake, again this little stickier side down, and put it right on top of this other layer. Get it as even as you can and kind of press down on it. When you press down, it makes this come out a little bit, which will be easy to ice in the end. So again, just press down on it. Should be great. And you can just put a few more clumps on the top. Now, easy way to do it. There's 2 different ways to actually ice in the side of your cake. You can take a bag of icing and you can just make strips like that around and then, you know, smooth them out. There's many different ways to do it. How I do it really the quickest is I put a couple of clumps up here to work with, and then I just start going around the cake. I do a thin layer first and then come back to it and add more. So I'll continue going around. You can see what it looks like, just a thin layer here. I'll continue going around and then we'll come back and turn on the... What I've done is I put a very thin layer all the way around. I'm going to let it sit here for about 5 minutes and it gets kind of a little bit hard and I'll add more to it. When I do that, it'll stay on a little bit better with my decorations and it'll look flatter. So let's let it kind of, what I call crisp for a minute, and then we'll come back to it. Okay, the cake has sat here for about 5 minutes and it's ready for me to go ahead and put my last layer of icing. So all I'll do is just exactly like I did before. I'll just plop it on the top and go around the cake and get it good and even, then we'll come back on. I put another layer on it, and now I'm going to let it sit here until it gets a little bit dry, and then I'll pat it with, this is a cloth I use, and it just makes it completely flat. Again, these are not the way that a professional is going to decorate this cake, but it's the way I do it. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Here's the amount of icing I have left, and I'm just going to, Tierney's color that she's picked is white, and so, is pink, and so I'll just take this and make it a very light pink. I like using a real light pink when I decorate a cake. So she'll be getting a pink cake. And all you have to do is, this is the type of coloring I use, but you could use any type of coloring. This works really good. And all you need is, I just poke a hole in that, and you just need a toothpick, and you really don't need much. I mean, when I say much, that's probably plenty. So let's go ahead and see what color it turns out. Yep, just stick it in. You know, if you want it darker, you'll have to add more, but can't take it out. And this will be fine. This will be a very light pink. My trick to flattening out the cake is I just take a smooth towel and clean, of course. Let me just make a dent in here. See that dent right there? All you have to do is take this and just go back and forth over your cake, and then it flattens it right out. I just messed it up there. So any place that you have a little indentation, and again, it doesn't have to be completely perfect, and you could play with it and get it even more perfect than what I've got it. But I'm going to ice in the cake, anyway and decorate it so you're not going to see it. But just a trick, just flatten it out. You can use some paper towels called Viva, and they do the same thing. Then let it sit again, get a little bit crisp, and then start your decorating process. We'll do that in a few minutes. All right, what I'm going to do is a simple decoration. It's going to be quick and easy. And I'll just start with a little circle and a line, and a circle and a line. And I'll go all the way around. If you mess it up, you can always remove it. There's nothing that can't be fixed. Okay, so now I'll just kind of do the same technique on the top. Now you do have to get a little more even on the top, but again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I am not a professional cake baker, so it doesn't really matter to me. It'll look pretty when I'm done. All right, I'll keep working on it. Okay, here's my finished product. You can write happy birthday on it or nothing. You can serve it for dessert, but it makes a great cake, and it was only about 3 or 4 minutes to decorate. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, share, and follow, and we'll see you next time.